If you're wondering, like we were, what it's like to have your boat hauled out and put on the hard, we'll follow along and we'll show you what it was like as MY Zinful was hauled out and put on the hard at a DIY boatyard, soon to be transformed into MY.
Welcome back to the channel. As you can see behind me, we're in a boat yard, and that's because our boat is actually on the hard here. We're doing some work to it to get it ready for the Great Loop. Now, the reason we're making this video is, if you watched our prior videos, you know our 4-day maiden journey turned into a 16-day fiasco. And that was really because we were inexperienced. So we're making this video hoping to help others that are gonna need a haul out, or maybe early in their journey, or they just don't know what a haul out is. And that's what this video is gonna be about. So what is a haul out, and why would you ever need one? Well, a haul out is simply getting your boat hauled out from the water onto land. The reason you'd want to do this is for either storing the boat, say for winter, or you're not going to use it for a while, or you're doing some type of maintenance that you just can't do while the boat is in the water.
After arriving at the location where we'd be hauled out, we tied off our boat and removed our belongings while the boat was still sea level. They positioned the marine travel lift boat hoist over a grate in the concrete pad adjacent to our boat and rinsed off the previous boat ick from both slings. The boat hoist was driven over the water and the slings were submerged to a depth below our draft of 42 inches. Tom and 3 boatyard employees pulled the boat forward over the slings while the travel lift moved backwards. Zinpol had small plaques marking the ideal location for placing the slings while avoiding props and any other underwater equipment that could potentially be damaged. The placement of the slings also determines the balance the boat will have once raised in the slings. The boat was lifted out of the water and brought to hover over the concrete immediately in front of the slip. At this yard, the haul out cost $300 plus tax. And now a bath. They're using a power washer to spray off the hull. This service costs $95 plus tax. A lot of the bottom paint came off during this process. Thankfully, it'll go right down the drain, right into insert EPA regulations here. Okay, and now we're on to our final resting place. I have a swanky new name picked out for after the upgrades, but Tom's not ready to commit just yet. The operator is using a set of what I'm pretty sure is old Atari controllers to remotely control the boat hoist. I'm sure, like all men, he's had plenty of practice, and it sure shows he backed her right on in. Knowing that we'd be repainting the bottom, they lay down thick sheets of plastic. They positioned 3 large concrete blocks under the center of our boat and put some scrap wood on top, which made direct contact with Zinpol's keel. Afterwards, it was blocked with 6 adjustable supports to prevent the boat from tipping to one side or the other. Blocking of our boat cost $95 plus tax. After the boat was securely supported, the slings were removed and the travel lift drove away. The final step of having our boat hauled out and set on the hard is to remove any barnacles and other growth that was not already removed by the power wash. Our understanding is that it's significantly easier to do it immediately after the boat has come out of the water as opposed to waiting until later. So we used drywall taping knives or putty knives to remove the barnacles, and they came off with almost no effort.
Now let's talk about what you'll need to know and what you'll need before you actually get your haul out. The first thing that you will need is boat insurance. Now you might be thinking, Tom, come on, of course you need boat insurance. Well, we had no idea. It's not required here in the state of Florida for you to have insurance on your vessel. We were thinking that while, once we got our repairs done and the boat was on the hard, before we went out, like on our actual journey to do the Great Loop, we were gonna get boat insurance during that time period. Well, you actually have to have insurance. All the marinas that we talked to and all of the boat yards wanted to have proof of insurance. So that actually caused us about a week delay because we got up thinking we could get hauled out immediately. They asked for our insurance policy, which they hadn't asked for previously. And we're like, oh, let us get insurance. And that took about a week. What is the price? What do you get for that cost? And are there any restrictions? These are definitely things that you're going to want to look into. Now, we called lots of different boat yards and marinas along the east side of Florida trying to figure out where we were going to store our boat for a few months so that we could personally do the work on it. And we found that some places didn't allow you to work on your boat at all. You either had to use their people at their marina or their list of vendors, or if you did want to do the work yourself or pay for someone else to come in and do the work, there may be a fee per day. Some of those were $30 to $40 per day. And you can see that adds up if you're working on your boat for a few weeks or a few months on end. So make sure you pay attention to those. Also look at the price of the haul out. Does that include the splash back in? Does that include some of the other things that come with it, like an environmental impact fee, washing the boat when it comes out, blocking it? Are they charging those individually, or is that included in the price as well? Several of the places that we called actually changed their pricing depending on how long the boat was there. One of them, in fact, went from being like a flat rate for the first 30 days, and after that, it was per foot per day. And it was like $3,500 per month at that rate for our boat, whereas the DIY yard that we're at, we're paying around $750 a month. That's a pretty drastic difference. Now, most of the time, they're going to want you to purchase some type of supply through them, so keep that in mind as well. We do have to purchase our paint supplies and our zincs through them, but they are very reasonable, so not a big deal. But some of the locations said we had to pretty much buy everything through them. So if we were going to have any canvassing done, or aluminum, or fiberglass, or anything, any type of part that we may need, we would have to purchase it through them. So just kind of keep those things in mind when you're calling around and figure out, what are they giving you for the price and what restrictions are they putting on you. Once you found the location that you're going to get hauled out at, you may have to be flexible when the actual haul out occurs. What happened to us is we got delayed because there was a named storm. Now, we were just right at the end of hurricane season, and what happened was a storm far away became a named storm. So the people that were on the hard that were planning to leave, they were already scheduled to splash and to go back into the water. Well, because that storm was named, they were waiting to see what was going on with the storm. That ended up costing us a few more days because we were waiting for their spot on the yard to open up so that they could put our boat there. So that gave us a little bit of a delay. So make sure you're flexible, and actually be flexible on the day of as well. We were supposed to get hauled out around the afternoon, and they called us and said, come on over, we're gonna get you hauled out. While we were en route to get hauled out, the boat that they were just putting in actually was taking on water. It had some type of mechanical issues and was taking on water, and so they had to haul it right back out, which caused a delay. So make sure you're flexible. Don't have a whole lot planned, maybe except for just that haul out. Just before you get your haul out, or maybe the few days prior, you are going to want to think about, is there stuff on the boat that's easier to get out of the boat while the boat is alongside a dock versus from the ladder once it's on the hard? So if you have a full pantry and a fridge and a bunch of personal belongings that you plan to take off the boat while it's on the hard, well, you might want to do that alongside the dock. I can assure you, going up and down the ladder and getting stuff in and out of the boat is not that simple. So we actually cleaned out our boat the night before we got the haul out. Another thing to think about is the tanks. You're probably going to want to have your water, your gray, and your holding tank cleared out or cleaned out or pumped out before you actually go in, because that way you don't have like a stinky holding tank, or if you're going to work on the holding tank or any of the toilets or anything like that, then you probably want to have those tanks empty, especially if you're going to be winterizing the boat. So you're going to be storing the boat somewhere cold and you want to have all the water out of the boat, then you're probably going to have those tanks empty as well. So just make sure you think about getting those done, or the tanks maybe pumped out just before you actually get hauled out. And then leading up prior to getting the haul out, what do you want to do with your fuel? Now, I read online, lots of people said that you should have your fuel as low as you can get it. So that way, if you do get any condensation or algae in your fuel, it's cheaper to get it cleaned out and taken care of because you have less fuel to get rid of. But on the other side of the coin, lots of people say, no, you should fill your fuel tank all the way up because you have a less chance of getting condensation because you don't have as much air in the tank. Now, that's up for you to decide. Lastly, I want to mention is if you don't have somewhere to stay and you live on your boat all the time, then you're probably going to want to figure that out prior as well. Now, of course, we have Ogre, our camper van that we built last year. But if you don't have a house or a camper van to stay in, where are you going to be staying while your boat is on the hard? Here in Florida, I don't think that liveaboards are allowed in dry dock situations, like the boat has to be in the water. I can tell you that at the boat yard that we're at, they do not allow you to stay on the boat while the boat is on the hard. To be honest, we wouldn't have really access to water or pump outs, and we wouldn't have electricity either. And so since it's hot here in Florida, I don't think it'd be a very enjoyable experience. But I understand that, people do live on their boats, and if they need to have some work done, they might not have anywhere to go. And so they may, kind of suffer while they're doing the work on the hard. Just some, another thing for you to consider leading up to actually getting your boat hauled out. Don't forget, the best way to support the channel is simply by subscribing. It's free to do so, and if you ring that bell, you actually get notified anytime we put out a new video. Hopefully this video was helpful to someone out there. It was something that we definitely needed prior to us getting hauled out, so hopefully it helps others in the future. We got about a month or so before we set, out on the Great Loop adventure, and we have lots to do. So join us for our great adventure, and we'll see you soon.